So things to do before, and they're super obvious, but sometimes they're not. I always pack at least a day before I start shooting, every single time. And when I say test your gear and complete workflow twice, workflow is the key. I test everything. Memory cards, card readers, cables, hard drives, computer, the software. How many times I have been working on something and then something pops up, oh, there's a new update. Do you want to Keynote? Do you want to download Keynote? There's a new version. And you say, yes, of course, I want the new version. And then you go and want to open your presentation. Doesn't open. This doesn't open on the new version. Oh, what are you going to do? Well, you have to test it before, because that has happened. How many times I update the firmware on a camera, and then that has been working no problem with Premiere Pro or my computer. And then because I update the firmware or I update the software, they don't talk anymore. You cannot open that file anymore. What do? What happens if you're on location? You cannot do that. So you test that before. Charge all your batteries, format all your cards. This might be dumb and obvious, but it happens. Even if you have the same brand, let's say you're shooting Sony, okay? And then you have an FS7 as your A cam, and you have A7S II as your B cam, okay? You say, well, it's Sony, right? But it's not the same camera. Different models, different firmware updates. So you format these cards for this camera, and you format these cards for this camera, and you keep them separate. I've had this happening to me, twice at least, where you shoot, you play the footage on the camera, you see everything, no problem, you're good to go. Download the footage, nothing. And you're like, no, I swear it's there. And then you put the card back, you can see it, it's there. And then you like the next one, and you download, nothing. At least on my end, for those two occasions, there was no workaround. You had to reshoot. Another one, for example, was we were shooting at like a very high frame rate, and the camera was working fine. We were capturing the footage, no problem. And on the camera, it played no problem. And then when we downloaded it had what it's called stuttering. So you have the video and it's kind of like starts and stops, and starts and stops, and starts and stops, because the card is too slow to record that amount of data. And that's baked in. That's part of the footage. You cannot do anything about it. There's no way to save that, which means you have a problem. Have a camera backup, location backup, media backups, and backup of all essential items. You cannot rely on cell phone batteries or internet connections or any of that. So at least the script and the schedules and the shot list, everything is printed like the second before we go, to always have the latest version of everything. And never use new gear on a client shoot. I never ever bring anything new to a client shoot. If I'm renting something new, I'm allowing at least 2 days before the shoot to really test it and get used to the camera or get used to the lens or whatever I'm using. And so when I'm on location shooting, I know the system. I'm not just trying to find the menu, downloading the PDF, trying to see where to change the white balance, which is horrible. Set up 2 alarms and go to bed early.